Welcome to Movie Recaps. Sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the summary. Spoilers included. The movie opens with a quiet, methodical man named Charlie Heller, a cryptographer for the CIA who spends his days decoding intercepted communications and combing through encrypted chatter from across the globe. He isn't a field agent. He doesn't carry a gun. He's a desk-bound genius, isolated, disciplined, and living a quiet life of routines and codes. But outside of his job, Charlie's world is filled with love. At home, he finds peace and meaning in his life with Sarah, his wife, a humanitarian aid worker and licensed pilot with a deep sense of compassion and adventure. They spend their free time restoring a dusty old Cessna aircraft together, a project Sarah inherited from her late father. For them, it's more than a plane, it's a dream waiting to take flight, a metaphor for their future and the life they want to build beyond the chaos of the world around them. But everything changes in an instant. While traveling to London for her work, Sarah is caught in a violent terrorist bombing that rips through a crowded area. The attack is brutal, and she's killed instantly. Charlie receives the news not through a friend, but through an internal CIA alert, a sterile, impersonal message that severs the love of his life with a single line. The grief is consuming. The world that once made sense to Charlie collapses. Every encoded message, every thread he's ever decrypted, it all becomes noise. All he can think about is why Sarah had to die. And who was responsible. Refusing to accept the official narrative, Charlie does what he does best, he digs. He combs through encrypted CIA records, cross-referencing traffic patterns, intercepted signals, and redacted files. What he uncovers is horrifying. The CIA had prior knowledge of the terrorist cell involved. Not only that, but they deliberately allowed the attack to happen. The bombing that killed Sarah was a cover story, something the agency spun to hide a botched operation, possibly even one they engineered. A drone strike had gone off course, and the narrative was rewritten to avoid public outrage. To the agency, it was collateral damage. To Charlie, it was betrayal. Furious and hollowed out by loss, Charlie marches into the office of Deputy Director Moore and demands accountability. But the agency stonewalls him. They cite politics, national interest, and secrecy. No investigation, no arrests. Just silence. That's when Charlie decides to act on his own. Using his top-level clearance and insider access, he finds leverage, files, surveillance footage, and intelligence that the agency never wanted exposed. He blackmails his way into the CIA's field training program, demanding the tools to take justice into his own hands. Moore reluctantly agrees, assigning him to Colonel Henderson, a hardened, no-nonsense operative who's seen more wars than he cares to remember. Henderson doesn't believe in amateurs. He thinks Charlie's grief is going to get him killed. But as training progresses, he sees something different in the cryptographer. Charlie may not be physically strong, but he's methodical, sharp, and emotionally locked in. He learns quickly, not because he's trying to prove something, but because every skill brings him one step closer to the people who took Sarah from him. Henderson begins to respect him, not as a soldier, but as a man on a mission with nothing left to lose. With his training complete, Charlie vanishes. He doesn't wait for orders. He begins tracking the men responsible, using CIA databases, satellite footage, and backdoor systems to find every link in the chain. His journey takes him across Europe and North Africa, from the back alleys of Paris to the underground black markets of Istanbul, and the crowded ports of Tangier. He doesn't fight like a trained assassin, he outsmarts his enemies. He uses cameras, drones, firewalls, and improvised traps to strike. He manipulates surveillance feeds, reroutes satellite imagery, and triggers panic in secure locations. His kills are silent, calculated, and untraceable. But each one comes at a cost. With every target he eliminates, Charlie feels the weight of vengeance digging deeper into his soul. His final target is a man named Horst Schiller, a ghost from the intelligence world. Schiller is a former asset, off the grid, presumed dead, and the man who personally executed the bombing. Charlie finally corners him aboard a cargo freighter anchored in the Adriatic Sea. But when they meet, Schiller doesn't fight. Instead, he speaks. He tells Charlie the truth, that Sarah was never supposed to be there. She wasn't a target, she died protecting a child who had wandered into the blast zone. She died a hero. The attack wasn't about her. It was about something far bigger: operations, politics, games played by powerful people who never get their hands dirty. The confession rocks Charlie to the core. All this time, he thought killing Schiller would bring peace. Now, he sees it for what it really is, just another act in a long cycle of violence. In that moment, Charlie makes a different choice. He doesn't pull the trigger. Instead, he hacks into the ship's satellite systems and locks the navigation controls, setting the freighter on a direct course into international waters. There, he alerts Interpol. Schiller is arrested by international authorities, and the CIA is publicly exposed. The truth comes to light, and Charlie disappears from the grid. Back in Washington, the fallout is immediate. Deputy Director Moore is arrested for obstruction and conspiracy. Colonel Henderson files a private commendation for Charlie's service, calling him one of the most resourceful agents he's ever seen, even if he technically wasn't one. But Charlie declines any recognition. He doesn't want medals, or headlines, or apologies. Instead, he returns to the old Cessna he and Sarah once worked on. He finishes restoring it, every bolt, every panel, every memory. He climbs into the cockpit alone, places his hand on the controls they once shared, and takes off. As the camera pulls back, Charlie soars through the sky, free from revenge, but not from memory. He carries the weight of what he's done and the peace of knowing he honored Sarah's legacy not through violence, but through restraint, discipline, and truth. He may have started as an amateur, but by the end, he became something far greater, a man who fought the system not to destroy it, but to make it accountable. And as the clouds open ahead, Charlie flies into a future unknown, leaving behind a legacy built not on vengeance, but on justice.